Welcome YouTube. Today in this video we're going to be testing the 77D against the 6D Mark II to find out if there's any difference between this $1,600 camera and this $650 camera.
Just last week you called me, the way you're talking is driving me insane. Hello.
Alright, I'm super excited to go out and test these cameras and compare them to each other. These are quite possibly two of the best YouTube vlogging cameras on the market today because of the flip out screen. You can see yourself while you're recording and both of them have a awesome dual pixel Canon autofocus. Spec wise, there's very little difference between the two cameras. They both have the same Series 7 processor in them. They both have 45 cross type autofocusing points. They're very similar into the frames per second that they shoot. Camera wise, spec wise, they both shoot up to 60 frames per second in 1080p video. So they're very, very similar. The biggest difference between these two cameras, obviously, other than the price, is this has a full frame sensor and this is an APS-C sensor, so it's a smaller sensor. However, the camera is smaller, it's a little bit easier to pack around, so there is some benefit to the smaller camera, in my opinion, is that it's less weight, smaller to fit into your bag, where this is going to be a little bit bigger of a camera. Alright guys, so hopefully in this video we're going to decide which one of these two cameras is going to work better for you and your particular shooting style. Is it going to be worth basically another $1,000 for this full frame sensor? Or are you going to be better off saving $1,000 and going with the 77D? All right, in this portion of the test, we are going to be testing the video slow motion. We've got our soccer player here that's going to demonstrate a basic kick here, and we're going to compare the two cameras and see if there's any difference in the slow motion performance. All right, so I've got the 6D Mark II put on a tripod here. We're going to set the camera to 60 frames per second, and we'll slow it down in post to 24 frames per second, and we'll do the same thing with the 77D with the same lens and see if there's really any difference in the slow motion at all. With viewing these clips back, I definitely do prefer the 6D Mark II over the 77D just because the image quality looks to be a little bit better. As far as the slow motion performance, it's basically exactly the same, but if you look at the 6D Mark II, the colors just look a little bit more fuller or rich. I feel like it does a little bit better job with dynamic range than the 77D, but not by much. If you look at the sky and the 6D Mark II compared to the 77D, it's pretty close. Alright, so in the next comparison we're going to take the cameras on a little bit of a fishing trip, comparing the image quality and the color science between the two cameras. They're kind of all different sizes.
Yeah.
Yep, there's some trout that are like giant that are not here. But I hear like in Canada and stuff, there's like these giant trout. And here, the trout's pretty small. Okay, I just walked into that.
I got a fish right here on this bench. Right, exactly right there. Come out and we could look at the fish. This mysterious animal. It's about this big. Not like this big. Like this thick. And still like really stubby. And he has like and it runs like how crazy.
KJ there found a mysterious animal out there in the woods that he was describing to us. But in this next portion of the test, we're going to compare 6 images. I'm not going to tell you which camera is on these 6 images. There's going to be a camera A and a camera B. So the first 3 images are camera A, and then the second 3 images are camera B. And what I want you guys to do is comment below whether you like camera A or camera B, and compare like the dynamic range, the image quality, the color. Just let me know which image looks better to you, or which camera is giving you a better result. And then after we get through this, I'll tell you which one camera A was and camera B, so you can decide if there was any difference between these two cameras. Alright, so which camera was better to you? Camera A or camera B, or can you even tell a difference? So camera A is the 60 Mark II, and then camera B is the 77D. To me, they're super close, but after looking these images over again and again, kind of going back and forth, I can see a difference in the 60 Mark II. It's a cleaner image, and the dynamic range is a little bit better. One thing to keep in mind is I did use the exact same lens on this. I used the 16 to 35 f 2.8 L series lens, which changes the focal length a little bit on the 77D because it is the smaller sensor. So with that in mind, I did try to set the focal length as close as I could so we could get a pretty good comparison. Overall, the image quality out of both cameras I feel is really good. If you do take like a raw file from the 60 Mark II and it was way underexposed and you're going to try to pull that back in post, the 60 Mark II does have a little bit more ability to pull an underexposed picture back to life. I think I've got actually an example image that I could show you of an underexposed image with the 60 Mark II that we'll check and see how it recovers the shadows and the highlights and stuff with that image. Overall, these cameras are super close, but one thing to keep in mind, the 77D is a great camera. Some of my favorite images are actually been shot with that camera in the 35mm prime L series glass. I think it's the f1.8 series. Just absolutely beautiful, stunning portraits and landscapes with that lens. Now it's time to test the low light capabilities of these cameras. Will this bigger sensor in the 60 Mark II perform better than the 77D? What I'm going to do is head on over to the park and check these two cameras out in kind of a low light situation to see if one's more noisier than the other. Alright guys, so it's pretty dark out here. I've got the shutter speed set to 50. I've got the aperture set at 2.8 and the ISO is 6400. I'm shooting on the 60 Mark II, and now you can see basically how the camera is focusing on my face in this lighting condition, and also the colors, the noise. You can get an idea of what this camera does in a super low light situation. It's actually pretty dark out here with the ISO cranked up like this. Kind of brightens it up, but looks actually to me brighter on the display on the little camera than it does in person. Alright guys, I'm shooting on the 77D. Apologize for the wind. 6400 ISO, set at f2.8, shutter speed at 50. And you can see if the camera is focusing in on my face, whether or not we've got any noise, and we'll switch and bump up the ISO a little bit higher. Okay, let's bump this ISO. Okay, there's 12,800. You can see, okay, it's focusing in on my face a little bit better, and we've bumped up the light. So pretty impressed with this lens. I mean, this is super dark out here, so I'm surprised that we can actually see much of anything at all, but it's actually not too bad as far as what I could tell. It'll be interesting to see how these two cameras compare when I get the images back into Premiere and take a look at the footage. Alright guys, so a little tip for you video creators and photographers is to give yourself plenty of time when you're setting up and taking pictures. So I'm out here taking a picture of this sunset over this bridge, over this little pond by my house, and I'm messing around with two different cameras, trying to get the settings just right, just kind of dinking around, and missed the shot. The sun was going just behind the clouds right before it starts to go down, and it was perfect. It was absolutely beautiful, and I just straight missed the shot. So I had the tripod all set up. I was taking a bunch of shots of this spot, kind of following the sun going down. It's going down, and I decided to get back into the car, start messing with the camera. And I decide to look up, and I look out, and the camera, or the sunset is just perfect. Missed the shot. So there's a little tip. Make sure you have some patience. Wait for that perfect shot, and have everything all set up. Conditions change. The rain changes, the clouds change, light changes, and usually that perfect moment is only there for like a few seconds. So if I was a little more patient, a little bit more prepared, I think I would have gotten the shot. All right, for this final test, I want to compare these two cameras on how they look in my YouTube studio. It's probably one of the most important things to me is how does this look on my channel? So what I want to do is put these cameras just right in this environment and compare the two. How does the image quality look compared to one another, the color grading, that kind of thing. All right guys, so what do you think? I've got the 77D. How does it compare to the 60 Mark II? Are we getting any difference? Is the color better? Is it sharper? Is there less noise? What do you guys think? Is the focusing about the same as far as I can tell? So the focusing seems to be about the same on these two cameras. But anyways, what do you guys think? Comment below, tell me, is the 77D giving me any different of an image than the 60 Mark II? All right guys, so my end conclusion on using both of these cameras for YouTube or filmmaking, either way, if you're a YouTube creator, either one of these cameras is absolutely phenomenal. Whether you like the 60 Mark II or the 77D, it's totally personal preference. However, using these cameras, they're almost identical. They both have the flip out screen, the same frames per second. All the menu options are basically the same. They're just about the same cameras as far as the user experience, other than the 60 Mark II is a little bit bigger. And I was able to take that on a professional shoot, and I've got some really good results on it. And just having that bigger camera, I think, looks a little bit better for a professional shoot. The 77D is kind of just feels a little bit cheaper if you're taking it out on a professional job. But as far as the image quality, it's actually pretty dang close. I used both cameras on this last professional shoot that I did. I used the 60 Mark II and the 77D. Primarily used the 60 Mark II for some of the wider shots, and my close-up shots with some of the angles I did with the 77D, and was able to make a really good film and kind of put all those together using both the cameras. As far as some of the benefits that I like using the 60 Mark II over the 77D is definitely the image quality. As far as like taking portraits or using it as a photography camera, I do think the 60 Mark II is better. You can definitely pull a little bit more of the shadows and the highlights out when doing your post editing, a little bit better color grade. The higher megapixels, I think you get just an overall cleaner, sharper, better image with the 60 Mark II. The other thing that has a benefit to the 60 Mark II is that out of focus background. You're able to smooth that out a little bit more with that larger sensor than you can with the 77D. If getting the best image quality is your thing, the 60 Mark II might be the better camera for you. However, the 77D has some benefits to it as well. I actually like the smaller size. It fits better in my hand. I'm able to get some really nice B-roll with it. It's lighter to pack around, And one of the biggest benefits to the 77D is definitely going to be the more lens options. So whenever you're looking at Canon lenses, if you get a lens that says EFS on it, this can only be used on the APS-C sensors. So you can't use this lens on a full frame camera. And this particular lens right here is a really cheap lens, and its focal length is between 10 and 18. This is perfect for vlogging. You're gonna hold the camera out like this and do the vlogging yourself type video. This has an optical stabilizer in it. It's gonna make the image really, really smooth. You get that nice wide look to it, so you get you in there plus the stuff that's going on in the background, and you don't have to have the camera held like clear out on a 10-foot pole. You can have it pretty much arm length away. And with the image stabilization that's built into the body on that camera, and then you add this stabilized lens with a real wide angle, this actually really works for vlogging. Where the 60 Mark II, there's not a really good option as far as lens choices right now for that. The only downside to this is shooting this in low light. It's not very good. That gets kind of noisy in the low light situations, but in regular lighting, this is a great vlogging lens. The other lens that you can only use, this is an EFS for the APS-C sensor cameras, is a lens like this here. This is a 55 to 250 focal length. This lens is perfect if you're shooting photography like sports, like soccer or a football game or something that you're a long ways away and you need that extended reach. You get a lot of reach with this particular lens, and it's not a whole lot of money. It is image stabilized. Using the APS-C sensor cameras, you can still use the EF lenses on them, and you get a really clean image on there, and you can use the EFS. So that's definitely a benefit in my book to using the 77D over the 60 Mark II, is you get some more lens options that are a little bit less expensive. And obviously the big benefit to the 77D is definitely the cost. So it's almost $1,000 less, and when you combine that with some inexpensive lens options, you're gonna save yourself $1,000, $1,500 easy going with APS-C censored camera like the 77D or an 80D or something like that. All right guys, I had to change locations. I was getting blasted with the sprinklers over there. So in this park here, they're hitting different zones with the sprinklers. All right guys, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you got something out of it. Make sure you like it if you did, and subscribe to my channel so you can keep up on my fresh content that's going to be coming out, more camera reviews, tutorials, that kind of thing. So if you're into photography and if you're into making videos, this channel is going to be great for you guys. So love to see you in the next video.